Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Center for Leadership, the podcast where leadership begins at the center. You. I am Carrie Trahark, your host, and I believe that in order to lead others effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. This segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. They will share practices, insights, and tools that will help you stay centered, resilient, and ready to empower those in your care. Leadership isn't just a role, it's a choice, and it starts with showing up for yourself. So let's dive in. So, yay! I am super excited to be with my friend Charity today. Welcome, Charity.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love that intro. That is some cool stuff, and it is the stuff that I like to talk about. So what do we know
Oh,
today, Carrie?
well, I know we've been waiting for this opportunity to share. The challenge will be keeping it to about 40 minutes. Like a lot of conversations once we get going, we want to keep going. So if we do, we might have to cut it into two segments. But uh, for all those of you who are just tuning in, Charity is a great friend of mine. We work in the same field, both doing facilitation training and some Lumina stuff. And we're going to talk about that today. But as before we get started, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everyone else, which is what lights your fire?
Oh man, what lights my fire is seeing people come in like a little bit worried and a little bit frustrated, and seeing them walk out with just this thing of relief. So no matter whether that's facilitation, training, or coaching, just helping them get some clarity on where they are and have some grounding, and then going out with like some ways to get through. That lights my fire. Is just frankly helping people get where they want to go lights my fire.
Yes. Yes. Oh, love that. Um, so we're gonna talk a little bit today, kind of go a little bit off script. I shouldn't say off script, but actually we're gonna go on script because typically this is totally off script and we have a conversation. We're still gonna have a conversation and we don't have it scripted out, but we are gonna be a little bit more focused today in this conversation because we're gonna talk about Lumina, Lumina
Okay.
learning. And so first, just Charity, tell us a little bit about from your perspective what Lumina is and how you found it.
So what Lumina is and how it kind of fit into my work is that when you are a facilitator, you have to be really self-aware of what's going on in you. Like, what are the things that trigger you? What are the things that maybe spark something in you? So you have to be really self-aware of that so that you can hold the space for other people and not bring yourself into whatever it is they're doing. And so you've got to be really clear on what things the different personality types that are going on in the room and the relationships that are happening. And you have to be really clear about what it is that's about you, about your personality, that you either have to like tune up or tune down to be able to collaborate effectively. So I think I've already went past your question, but
Yeah, I love
that is what brought me to Lumina is how can I be clear about who I am so that I can better respond versus react to situations. Better to respond than react. In the world, I think we react a lot without giving ourselves that pause to say, okay, what's really going on here? What's going on in my own personality and my own personality traits that I need to just level out so that I can respond instead of just always be on that reactionary piece.
Oh, I think that's a great segue because when one of the things that I've done in just my self reflection over the last couple of years is really dig into just that. And one of the things that I learned when I was doing my Lumina is that one of my highest qualities is being spontaneous. One of my underlying highest qualities is spontaneous, which is great, right? We love to be spontaneous. And I think for one of the things I love about Lumina is that every quality is good. However, every quality can be ineffective when we're taking it to the next level. And for me, I often, when I get overwhelmed or stressed out, I'm impulsive. And so it
Mhm.
goes from being spontaneous to being impulsive. And I've learned that also kind of in my emotional intelligence that a lot of times that is my reaction, right? It is that reaction. and then I'm kind of working it back. And so really trying to be aware of slowing down and not reacting has been really, really important for me.
I hear you. I hear
So
you.
so with that, let's talk about some of the qualities. You and I just we Lumina has this awesome deck of cards that we use when we're in sessions with people, and we pull these out to just start the conversation about identifying what are some of the qualities that we each carry. So share with us the qualities that you picked.
Yeah. So the qualities that I picked, these are the kind of the things that I call my underlying. I would go with these all the time. Like when I'm just in my natural state and I don't have to worry about much else, I am somebody who is very empathetic. Like I'm very curious about other people and I want to see things from their point of view. So empathetic. The other thing that I am is I'm pretty darn accommodating. Like I am not somebody that has to be the winner. At times I do want to win, but most of the time I'm like, it's okay. Like life is going to go on. Let's just figure out how we can accommodate the people that are happening. And, maybe that's why I'm a facilitator, right?
Right.
So, and then here's some flexible. So that I think kind of slides into accommodating a little bit, but I'm pretty flexible in what we can do. Uh, yeah, I'm pretty flexible in figuring out. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this path. We can take the right one and probably get there just as fast sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So some ones that I chose. Uh, I prefer to talk to people in communication. I would prefer to talk rather than in writing. So,
Mhm.
so for me, really, they mean that demonstrative kind of way. Like I have to, I want to process it. I want to see your facial reactions. I want to feel your energy. I want to know how things are being perceived. And for me, for writing, I think I always say that my brain thinks faster than my hands, right? Like, so if I'm typing, and I have colleagues that I'll say this to, like, if you want to type this out and have this conversation, you're going to get the cliff notes, because I'm just not going to type. I'm going to skip a lot of parts, and you're going to get some high level things, and they might not even be important, but that's how you're going to get. So I love to talk it out and communicate. Um, Interacting with people energizes me. I same thing when we're in a group of people and we're watching, and I'm learning from them, they're learning from me, but we're able to kind of have this conversation where I see things clicking and it's sparking ideas in me. Like that really, really, really energizes me. And I love the collaboration. I think when I went out on business by myself, for myself, the biggest thing that I miss is that collaboration time, about just calling up a colleague and saying, hey, I have an issue. Can we think about this? Like, can you help me work this out? How might I do this? So I love to do that. And kind of same things I love to go with the flow. There's that adaptability, that, what I want things to emerge. Um, and it's funny because we're going to talk a little about opposites here in a second. While I love to let things kind of, come together, go with the flow, I want to be able to be adaptable. I'm also in a lot of situations not always flexible. So once we've made a decision in the moment, and I'm focused in and I'm ready to go, throwing something at me at the last minute doesn't always click for me. So yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I think that's beautiful in that, these are the things that we like when we are in our underlying, when we're not responsible for anything else. This is just how we like to roll in our underlying. And I think that's what Lumina is all about, is that in different situations, we leverage these personality traits by being in control of them in some aspects of being able to turn them up and turn them down, is to say, yeah, I'm pretty darn accommodating, but sometimes the rubber meets the road and we have to do something. Like
Yeah.
we have to make a choice, right?
Yeah. 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 I have found that too. And it's so interesting just learning more about myself, paying attention to my behaviors, and then even reflecting on past relationships, just personal relationships or work relationships, and just now identifying where that rub really was, And
Mhm.
a lot of times for me, like I don't know about you, but when I go in to do a strategic plan for an organization, I've never gone into one where they're like, we don't need any more communication, right? Communication is always like, we need communication. And for me, as I'm kind of what I'm learning about this is sometimes it's not, when we think about communication, sometimes it's not a shared language. Like, what are we really communicating? What is it that I really need from you? Or what is it that I'm really not helping you to understand or support? Um, and I think I think we get perceptions of people, like we just assume, right? We just assume because one of the assumptions I know that people have made with me is that, well, you avoid conflict. I don't avoid conflict. I will absolutely embrace conflict. I will have a hard conversation. What I'm not going to do is to meet your energy, right? So when you're way, way up here, I'm going to step back, and I'm not going to engage in something that's not productive. So I'll give you time to get to a space where you can have that, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to put gas on a fire,
Right.
kind of thing. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think, like you said, in all strategic plans, it's important to have the plan, even though we also know that likely something that's going to come up in the plan is something around communication.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Lumina and learning about our self awareness, is that I might be somebody who can write you a novel, and that's my communication. However, I know that Carrie communicates much better in verbal.
Mm,
So if I want Carrie to receive the message that I'm trying to share, then I'm going to have to dial up Carrie on the Zoom, and I'm going to have a conversation with her, because if I send her a novel, she's not going to get it.
no.
And in return, I'm probably not going to get the information that I need. So I think when we talk about Lumina and all these different personality traits, it's you, the communicator, that's responsible to send the message in a way that the receiver can hear it. And when we talk about Lumina and we start learning about all these traits, we can start to recognize those in other people. And so I
Mm,
can shift and say, okay, Carrie needs a verbal. I got to call her. I got to get on the Zoom. Somebody else, very detail oriented. They want a novel.
mhm.
So I have to send that message. So that's my responsibility. And I think that's what Lumina teaches us a little bit, is who we are and how to adapt that to the people that we're trying to collaborate with.
Yeah, yeah. I think that for me has been, again, one, assuming that people, I had a coworker once, we worked really, really well together.
Mhm.
And I kind of very flexible, very collaborative. I want to empower you. Like I was like, hey, this next meeting, go ahead and plan it and do whatever. And she would come back and go, well, what do you mean by this? Or, well, how should I do this? Or, just continue to ask me more clarifying questions. And I would get really, really frustrated because I was like, I'm giving you here, isn't this what you want? Don't people want to be empowered to go make their own decisions? And then learning about Lumino and thinking about that detail oriented, purpose driven person that she was, like, giving her the sky was not helpful to her. It was actually making it worse and putting way more stress on her. Where if we really just would have sat down and said, okay, what are the shared goals that we have for this session? What are some things that we're really hoping to get out? How do we want people to participate in kind of setting some of those guardrails? I would have been helping her set herself up for success. But instead, just not having any parameters, just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of kind of our conflict. And it was just, I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back
Yeah.
and
And
redo
if you'd
that.
have known that, if you'd have known that, like that, that's part of the collaboration process, is that frustration level that people get when they're speaking these two different languages. We're
Yes.
speaking the same English or Spanish or
Yes.
whatever it is to each other, but we're not speaking based on the personalities,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not adapting to that. I'm married to a wonderful guy, just celebrated 30 years.
Yay.
The guy lives in blue land over
Yeah.
here. I live in yellow, the opposite, right? He wants he speaks in questions. He wants all of the details, and I'm like, why can't we just go with the flow? Why can't we just pick a path and go on it? And he's like, we need all the details. We need all the details, right? And
Yeah.
that frustrated me. And this might be good for marriage counseling too, but
It is.
to recognize that that's just that guy's personality trait, and lean into it and be like, why are we frustrated? That's just that person being that person. And let them do what they need to do. And then we adapt because we know. We adapt because
Yes.
we know, right?
Yes. I have, yeah. This has helped me communicate in my marriage as well. And my husband and I, we've been married for 27 years. Right behind you,
Right
27
behind
years.
you.
It was there were a couple of aha moments for me that one was just the energy. and
Yeah.
and when I, growing up when we were raising kids, that's the hardest part of your marriage, just getting through that, where your attention
Mhm.
and your needs, people need you in a lot of different ways. um and I would come home from work, and I want to talk, I want to be together, I want to sit on the couch, and I want to, and have family time, and just have this, I'm a also love language of, physical touch, and and in he's very introverted, and it was like, I have spent all day with people. I need to go downstairs into my closet, and I need some time alone. And
Yeah.
that was always kind of a rub, where it was just like, why don't you want to spend time with me? Why don't you want to do this? And realizing, again, Lumina helped me understand that decompression, like
Yeah.
how to release some of those things where it was like, I needed people and he needed time to be alone. And I think I've adapted in that, over the years too, because I live in a house full of introverts, where our house is just quiet. It's just always quiet when people are here, because everybody needs their own space. And so I've learned and adapted to be kind of that way too, and kind of, I don't know, self-soothing, but have my own ways of re-engaging and re-energizing myself. But learning that through Lumina was so helpful for me to come into my home life and understand what other people needed from me.
I like that you just said that these people are very introverted, or these people, whatever. So Lumina does define that for us in terms, but it also doesn't limit us. So in
No.
other personality systems that I have worked with, it's people come out with labels, and I like that Lumina gives you the empowerment to say, all right, me naturally, I'm an introvert. I could be in this house all the time, but when I go out to different events and things, I recognize that I can't be a wallflower if I want
Right.
to move into some other thing. So I have to recognize, okay, this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable for me to go out and rub elbows with lots and lots of people. But I've gotten so much better at it over time because I've identified it and said, okay, right now you're standing in a corner. Is this getting you where you want to be? Recognize it, and then move on. So I like that Lumina gives you the opportunity to grow.
Bro.
You may always have this underlying personality, but you can grow for your everyday. You can grow
Yes.
into that everyday
Yes.
that helps you achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And I think that is the coolest part of Lumina.
I agree. And I think that's been it's been really helpful for me as I've transitioned into having my own business and working from home and being by myself all the time. It was like all those years of practice of of having to give everybody else in my family their space, and me learning, like, what does that feel like? What does it feel like to find energy somewhere else? What does it feel like to not, be always on the go, or always, doing something. It's helped me now to be in this space. It's a muscle that I had to flex. It's something that I really, really learned, and something that I never really thought I could do. But like you said, Lumina does kind of expose that, to be able to say, like, this opposite quality, you can do that. And what does it look like for you to flex that muscle? Or what are other strengths that you have kind of in the vicinity of that you can lean into, to help you move through? And I know, one of the other things that people find that's surprising is that when I get sometimes overextended, even though I'm very extroverted, in a room full of extroverts, you won't find me. Right. So when there's a lot of energy,
Huh?
and there's a lot of things going on, I can very easily disengage, and I can very easily sit in a place just to observe. And a lot of times I just like to observe, and I like to see kind of what's going on. And I found out very early on, I mean, I had somebody come up to me once who was like, man, you're just kind of I always thought you were kind of a bitch. Because I would see you in these big conferences, I would see you in these spaces, and you were just never engaged in anything. And it was like, it made kind of that same thing with you, where it was like, I have to have that kind of self-talk, is what do I want to get out of this, and put myself into a space where I'm maybe a little bit more vulnerable than I want to be.
Yeah.
But I also want to be courageous, and I want to build some of those relationships, because relationships are important. And so
That is
knowing
so
that,
crazy.
yeah,
That is just bananas that somebody came up to you and said that. But honestly, somebody came up to me and said that same thing, that they said, hey, back in the day, I just thought you were stuck up. And I'm like, what? Like, I am just about like, I hope your facial expression alludes that I'm not.
I would
Uh,
never have said that.
and if you look at like all of the evaluations I get when I complete a training, it's like fun, enthusiastic, caring, all these good things. But I was just being such a freaking introvert and
Mhm.
not recognizing me to step out a little bit of that little shell. I couldn't live in my underlying persona and still come out with people knowing that I gave a hoot about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
really like that you leaned into that. And I think, I don't know if people understand the fact that, you know, you have a way, underlying way that you react. And then when you go to work with other people, you tune up different personality traits. So you have an everyday persona. And then you have that overextended, like when you don't have control of what's going on, this is where you freak out. I love that Lumina gives us those three lenses, um, because we do tune up or tune down things based on the interactions that we are in. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you do in your everyday persona that maybe you wouldn't do on a natural basis? Maybe
Oh,
I went off your script. Have I went off your script?
no, there's no script. This
Oh,
is what
okay.
it's about.
I'm curious.
That I love that. So a really big one is the go with the flow.
Mm,
Um, and a good example that I use is that when my husband and I were both looking for vehicles at the same time, like
mm.
he researched, he narrowed down, he knew exactly what he wanted. He had then he went and he found those vehicles on two different lots, and he was like, it's down to these two. And he hadn't even looked at them yet. He's like, it's between one of these two. Like, I'm gonna go drive them. That's the decision, because it has everything that I want. And I walk on a lot, and I was like, oh, that's pretty. Oh, look at that. Like, oh, that has a sunroof. Like, and so being in business, and one of the things that I've learned is that I'm very I'm very competitive with myself. Like, I want to do the best that I can do, and I'm driven in that way. Like, if I set something, don't you, I mean, people who know me, the people who are closest in my circle will always say, like, if you want Carrie to do something, tell her she can't do it, right? Because she'll go do it.
Mhm,
So just
mhm,
that, but what I don't have is the discipline. So the goal setting, the details, the discipline is not something that I naturally carry. I just am kind of like, yeah, I'm going to put it out there. It's all going to come together. But being in business, I've had to learn how to focus in those spaces. And I've had to adjust my day to figure out the short segments of when and how I can do that with the energy that I have. Also taking, and I kind of ease into my week. Like, I've learned to, if I can't roll out of bed Monday morning and just go right into my office. Like, I have
right.
to kind of ease into my day, my week. I take time to journal or meditate or pray or whatever that looks like, and kind of move into that week. So I've learned some habits that support my whole self, so that I'm not moving overextended immediately. And
Mhm.
if I can schedule my day for certain tasks that are more detailed in certain parts of the day, and then taking breaks or going to work out or doing something that's going to move my energy back into a space that I have. So being structured and flexible
Mhm.
is kind of that balance of what I've had to figure out, of what comes natural to me, and then what I've had to have really focus on.
Yeah, I think I hear you too, is that when I look at my own Lumina splash for underlying, like I'm inspiration driven. Oh, I'm squirreling all the
Yep.
time. There, the internet is terrible for me. I have 42 browser
Yes.
tabs open because I'm exploring
900 unread
yoga.
emails.
Yep, there's just stuff all over. But when I do under every day, which is, when you
Mhm.
step into the space where you have to collaborate with everybody else, man, I become the most reliable, put together person. I don't know if you've recognized that in me,
Yes.
but that's
Yes.
that's the deal. And the every day is about, working with other people. And uh people will always make that comment. Like people I collaborate with, there's like, oh my gosh, you're so organized. Look at all your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but if I turned the camera around and showed
Right.
you the closet, you would be like, who are you? Um,
I
and
have to say, like when we first met, right, and because we're in the same network of facilitators, and I would see you from a distance, and I would see the things that you were doing, and I like my perception of you was she's really organized, she's paying attention to details, she's very, very purposeful in the things that you do. And even coming into our first training, that was like, okay, like I'm gonna have to really focused to meet Charity where she's at in those detail stuff, and then to watch you get into your natural state and just be flexible and have fun. And I was like, oh no, she's just like me, we're good.
but I tune that up. I
Yeah.
put a lot of energy in that because other people are around me and I am responsible and I value, that's where that empathy piece comes in too, that I value people so much that I'm willing to put in the extra energy and the effort to make sure that I'm ready for whatever it is that they need in that space. And
Yeah.
I've learned that too, is that I can't run wild with all of my inspirational things when other people are around me because they're not going on that same journey. We are on a different journey. Now, if we want to get together and we were like, "Hey, inspiration people, let's show up and
Let's
let's just
brainstorm.
dream." I'm all in. Let's do that. But
Yes. Yes.
when it comes to work or being in collaboration with people, I recognize that I am really flighty. So I put a lot of energy in tuning that piece up for every day, and it shows.
So do you find that you settle, I don't want to say work better, because again, we have the choice in how we show up, but do you find it's easier to settle in with someone who is your psychological opposite versus somebody who is more of a mirror, is more like you?
Oh, I think sometimes the mirror, like if somebody shows up being super reliable and I'm super reliable at the same time,
Yeah.
I think we could probably clash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do end up typically when I'm collaborating with different individuals, I'm usually the one that is holding the organization piece together. And sometimes I can also go overextended in that organization piece and lose my flexibility
Mm-hmm.
completely because I am
Mm-hmm.
so intent on making sure people get what they need that I can be a little bit overly structured. And I have to pull back sometimes because I'm like, hey, you're not giving people the room they need to breathe by being so overextended and holding things so tightly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's just because of my 27 years of marriage that um I I think I settle into a partnership faster when I'm working with my opposite. Um, I think I'm getting better at recognizing some of those opposite qualities faster than I was before. And like you said, kind of knowing what my role is, so if I'm carrying if I'm working with somebody who's super, super detail oriented, and knowing that, I have to tune into that so that I'm paying attention, but also I have to kind of carry the inspirational side to help us, move into creativity or think of something different. But also I think what I wasn't doing before was communicating, comes back to that, communicating what I was doing, right? To communicate like, hey, yeah, that's really, really detailed. And yes, the data supports that. And what might be available to us if we change directions, like what are some things, and asking those questions that are going to help get us out of maybe being stuck in the details and looking more into spaces that are really inspirational. Like you said, if I want to sit down with somebody and I just want to think about possibilities and brainstorm and vision and all of those things, with there are people who I'm like, these are the people that I want to help me think bigger than what I think, than what I know that I can typically do, because I think I'm a creative person in the moment, but I'm not a really big picture thinker. So if I want to think about endless possibilities, then I'm tapping into people around me who I know do that and help me unleash some of those barriers that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we dig into the Lumina teamwork a lot
Yes.
too, is that you have to look at teams. I work with different groups all the time, and Lumina has this uh, team view where you can see where people are lining up in the team. And, sometimes you have groups that are completely in the detail level, like they're just, detail, detail, detail. And you're like, okay, so you as a group need to look at your team and see who could stretch to be that inspirational person, like who could stretch and be that person, because sometimes they will stagnate because they're all leaning into that natural quality of very detailed, detail, detail, and they're not growing as an organization or a team because they either don't have anybody on the team that can make that stretch, or they need to look for people who can support that stretch for them. So Illumina is a real eye opener for teams and groups to say, okay, where are we? It doesn't always lean into being balanced. Like we're not looking to balance a wheel or of personalities. We're not like shopping for personality traits, but we're also saying if you want some more innovation in your team, then you're going to have some opportunities to have conversations that are about innovation. Or you're going to have to say the next person we hire, maybe they need to have a little bit more natural inspiration in their personality sets. So it's a good
Yeah.
way to help teams recognize, like, uh, yeah, I love that detail group. It's like we're really into the details. Yeah, I got that. But you're mad at each other because nobody's using any empathy or any inspiration to move you out of the details into that next step.
Yeah. I it reminds me, I was working with a group, a small team,
Yeah.
and they were their leader that they had for a long time was transitioning, was leaving the organization, and kind of retiring and moving on. And so there was just going to be this shift, and they knew they were probably going to be promoting within. It was probably going to be one of them. They kind of knew who it was, and it was just like, okay, so now what does this look like for us as we're shifting and moving roles? And so we started with Lumina. And one of the things, everybody takes their own assessment, and I spend time kind of debriefing what's in theirs with them, so they have an understanding of what it says before they go into a team session. And there was a gal who, their whole team super super detail oriented, right? Super purpose driven, loves the data. They did a lot of evaluation work, so it made sense in the work that they did. And we have one person who's in this big picture thinking. And she had told me in her debrief that she was looking forward to this, but she's like, I feel so shut down in meetings. And so we got to do their team session, and we're on the wheel, and we're physically looking at everybody on this side and her, the only solo person on the other
The
side.
wheel, like
The
this,
wheel. Yes.
it
So
actually
again,
looks like a big rug in person, right?
yes. So you can imagine everybody on that blue side, one person way over here on the yellow. And, and I was asking some questions, what do you appreciate about what you're looking at? And the everybody in the blue were like, we really appreciate so and so because, they're the only person that really brings that big picture. And then, she kind of paused a minute, and she finally just said, she's like, I feel so alone. She's like,
Wow.
I feel shut down. When I come into a meeting and I have a really big idea, I question myself because there's power in numbers, and you have everybody over here on this data side who is only, I don't think we should do that because the data doesn't support it, or I don't think we should do that because I don't understand how it will work. Right. and having all of these questions. And she's like, I continually feel shut down. And I can see the bigger picture. I can see the bigger strategy. And they just weren't finding kind of that middle ground. And that can be a hard
Mhm.
conversation to navigate. But when they realized it and they were like, whoa, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. We want to find spaces to help you embrace that. And just as you said, then kind of looking internally in their own luminance and who else, right? Who else has some of that underlying that we're not tapping into, or who else can be kind of a bridge to help us understand and communicate the big picture down to the details. But a lot of teams just don't have those conversations, and that person eventually, who's a big picture thinker, ends up leaving because they just never felt like they fit into the
Yep.
organization.
They didn't feel like they had a spot. I'm curious if you are experiencing this, whether it's in facilitation in your training in Lumina workshops, where you see a lot of people leaning, using their everyday personas and really leaning into outcome, like really leaning into like, we have to be successful. We have to reach the goal. We have to do the thing. We have to do the thing. Like everybody on the team naturally, either through the culture or whatever, that everyday persona when they're showing up with everybody, it's like we have to be tough and we have to reach the goal. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, where are you seeing? What are you
Yeah.
seeing?
Um, yes, I actually have an organization that I've worked with for a while that when we did their strategic plan and it was the goals that they had for their first year, I was like, whoa, like I think you need to, I even said it, like, are you sure we have the capacity to do this? Or are there things that maybe we need to kind of step back and let things evolve naturally? And no, we can do it. And knowing their team, I knew, what was going to happen. And, um, had check-ins with them and so goal driven, so outcome driven that we are going to meet these at all cost. And the organization grew really fast. They met all of their goals. And then they called me and like, we burnt out. Like we no longer have trusting relationships among this group because they looked outcomes over relationships
Mhm.
and didn't have time to properly onboard. And kudos to them for recognizing
Mhm.
and pausing and saying, whoa, this is not the culture of the organization that we wanted to create. Like we got way caught up into this outcome focused. And I
Mhm.
think what's really hard too is that I think sometimes we hire people that feel like us, that are driven like us. So, if we're very outcome driven, we want to hire more people that are outcome driven because we think that's what's going to get the best results. Forgetting that we are all of those things. And while I might be outcome driven, I'm also very collaborative. You're also very empathetic, or I'm also very people focused. Right. And it's like, when it comes to, I can be outcome driven, but if you're going to ask me to be outcome driven over people, I won't do it. Right. And so then you
Yeah.
start to have this breakdown within the organization of where are we, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. And if everybody is taking that underlying personality, or, those personality traits and kind of stifling them
Mm-hmm.
by pushing their everyday to outcome, that takes a lot of energy and a lot
Takes
of
a lot of
juice.
energy.
So I think what you did is just nailed it by saying they burnt out because
Mm-hmm.
they were all trying to live in this one, one side. And, if you're really trying to get great outcomes, you have to listen to the people. You got to have some inspiration. You got to have data. You have to have those other personality traits show up so that you're getting the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because just saying we're going to reach a goal isn't bringing those other pieces in that help you get there. Because reaching a goal is not a goal, it's a process.
Yes.
It's a
It's a
process.
process.
It's the process. So stating something as a goal is a good place to aim for, but it's
Mm-hmm.
that process, and you need all of those other personality traits in there, living their best selves to give you all the pieces to get to that process.
And I think what's important, and I think even in my own experiences, when we are, like you said, when I have two underlying traits that are competing.
Mhm.
So I can be very competitive, but I also on the other side, right, really, really collaborative.
Mhm.
Um, and burning that candle on one end and really leaning into that competitiveness. When I burn out over there, the overextension that causes, that win at all cost. Um, and I being competitive is great. Like I said, every quality is great. Win at all
Mhm.
cost, and especially at the cost of other people or the cost of innovation or the cost of money or whatever it is. That starts to create some toxic workplaces, toxic relationships, because people are like, you are so focused on the outcome, you don't care about what you're doing to the people in order to get that.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I'm working with organizations, one, because I've experienced it in a lot of different ways in my life, um but it is kind of that check to be able to say, what is that balance? And I think everything comes, just the center for leadership. That's what this is all about. It's finding that center, and that what is the center, and not, I want to say just balance, because it's not either or. It's the holistic picture that
Yeah.
keeps us moving.
Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be outcome. Like if you have a team that's full on introvert, they're not talking to each other. They're not communicating with each other, right?
They're all
If you have
reaching their own individual goals.
and if you have a team that's full on inspiration, they're not getting anything accomplished because they're in dreamland. So
Yeah.
there's got to be balance in all of those things.
Yeah.
I know we're leaning a little bit into overextension, and uh, yeah, I'm curious. Like, did you pick anything for overextension? Did you pick any of these cards?
Well, the first one was yes, where did it go? So one of them, which is interesting because the one I had talked about, that sometimes I can disappear in a crowd, if sometimes that's an overextension for me. But another one is sometimes I can be too outgoing that I don't maintain my boundaries.
Right. I might have that problem sometimes. Yeah.
I
Um,
just I want to be included. I want to do
yeah.
things. I want to, yeah.
I think mine is the tough. Like if somebody
Mm.
really pushes me, I'll full out admit it. I was in a workshop the other day and I had a person um, that hadn't made a mindset shift. Like so, when we're doing top facilitation method training, I see a lot of mind shifts, mindset shifts, and that person, fabulous person, love her to death. If she's watching this, she's gonna know who it is. But she challenged me on something, and I am very deeply grounded in the values of facilitation. And she challenged me and she kept pushing, and I felt my trigger. And for about half a minute, I went into argument mode, because
Mm.
I was getting challenged on my values and I went into just arguing and I quickly caught it, thank goodness, because that's not the place to be doing that. Like I'm not there to argue somebody into believing something that I'm training. I'm there to just share it and they take what they want. But she was challenging me a little bit and I was like for 30 seconds and I was like, you know what? I think this is a good time for me to just let you experience this. And I'm just going to step away for a minute, just to, because that trigger, knowing that those are the things, like when you challenge me on my values, I'm going to go overextended. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to go overextended.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to
That is
notice.
that's one of my overextensions as well.
Mhm.
I can be very, very argumentative. And I love that you pointed out, like, it is something we can control, because you and I, when we step into spaces where we're facilitating or when we're training, when we're facilitating, we become neutral, right? and
Yep.
and
Yep.
sometimes it's easy because we don't have any stake in the game. We're from on the outside. I don't necessarily know what you're talking about, so it's easy to hold the space. um but in sometimes in training, yeah, when we get challenged on things, I mean, I think we've learned to lean into, like, this is a space for all of us to learn, and I can be open to learn. In my personal life, Yeah, I haven't learned that yet. Like argumentative. When you said if values are being challenged, or and I think that's something, too, in my just in my own personal development work about letting go of the need to be right, and understanding that I live kind of in my own bubble, in my own world, with my own values and agreements that I have made with myself. And other people don't live in that bubble, and they have different agreements or different values. Um, but it's still hard. It's still hard
Yeah.
not to, you know, it's like if you can feel that way, and I'm fine. But if you are telling me that I'm wrong because I feel that way,
Mhm. Yeah, that's a different story,
that's a
right?
different story.
Yeah.
Gloves
And I
off.
think, yeah, in facilitation, you really have to know where your overextensions are because, a lot of times, I mean, if you want to have open, honest, authentic conversations, there's going to be heat. There's
Yeah.
going to be frustration. There might be some loud voices and dirty words. But
Mhm.
me, knowing that I want to accommodate everybody and I want to be empathetic, I have to hold the line and just be like, okay, we got to let this happen. But when it goes too far, I got to pull it back. But I have to hold that line and have, I have to know what my triggers are so that I'm not expressing that and interfering with the authenticity that's going on in
Mm,
that particular conversation. I can't let me come into their authenticity.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really good for leaders who are trying to address issues instead of emotional. Like we're trying to address issues and fix issues as leaders, not necessarily play into he said, she said, emotion, right?
I think that's a really good point in kind of that situational leadership, and how both facilitation and Lumina help to support that.
Mhm.
Because I remember early in my training journey, we were talking about the facilitator being neutral, right? And we were kind of having that conversation, and somebody coming up to me and being like, "Why would you want that? Like, I can't be neutral in my life." And I was like, "Oh, no, no, I'm not neutral in my life. I'm neutral in this space because this is what the space is asking me to do. Like, this is the role in which I'm stepping into to support the group and what the group needs." So I'm putting aside some of my own personality, and digging into some of those qualities that's going to help support the group here, and using a process and skills to do that. If I was a participant and I was coming in as a somebody who had stake in the game, or who had, this was about my leadership or my position, then I'm not going to be neutral. But then I'm also tuning into those leadership traits that are also going to best support the group, right? So I'm not going to come in argumentative. I'm going to look at the qualities and say, in this situation, what are the qualities that I need to show up and lean into, that are going to best be helpful to move us, as you said, to that solution. So it is
Yeah,
really knowing about the different role that I play and the different qualities that are going to help me support that role.
absolutely. Like this, knowing yourself via whatever Lumina tells you in the data that it provides you, knowing yourself and addressing that on the situation, like what leadership hat am I wearing? What position am I in the group? If I'm not leading the group, then I'm going to be a little bit less likely to focus all of my energy on being the communicator. I'm going to be more of the receiver, and I'm expecting you to share that to me in a way that I can receive it.
Yeah.
So adapting doesn't always mean that we have to shut ourselves off. It also means that other people have to start picking up on that as well. Like we can't always be the one adapting, but that's really based on what leadership hat are you wearing and what is the message that you need to get across.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that too, because I think that what you just said about, it's really about knowing how to invite people back in, right? And being able to say, as an organization, as a leader in an organization, like, hey, I know that you've got some creative thoughts, and I'd really love you to lean into some of those and share, or create, or as a facilitator, I'm creating a process that's going to help lift that voice out, right?
Mhm.
Or if we're an organization that really needs to really needs to evaluate where we're at and how we're going. I'm either as a facilitator bringing that process, or as an organizational leader, that I'm really paying attention to who those people are and what how do I need to approach that, or how do I need to ask questions that are going to help us as a whole group think in that space. And as the more you know, the easier it becomes to flex and to know your people and to create that trust. Like if you're approaching me in a space, or you recognize for me, like you recognize that, oh, Carrie's really overextended, like something is not, she's not showing up as her normal self, and knowing, being like, hey, you know what, take a moment. um we can do this another time, and rather, this is not a situation that we need to push through. What supports can I give you? What do you need to do to take care of yourself? um I think it's just really important. The more that we can see people and recognize how they're showing up and what we need to do to help bring out the best in them and
Yeah.
bring out the best in ourselves. So,
Yeah, like I know that you and I, like I think everybody in the world, not just you and I, but we're going through some stuff with
mm,
different, you know, family relationships and different things of that nature, caring for other people in capacities that, we're taking on the caregiver role and different things.
mhm.
And you and I met a couple of weeks ago, and you came on, and I mean, we had things to get done. Like we
Yeah.
had goals, but I could just see that if we didn't spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it was getting that off your plate, or at
Yes.
least getting it
Yes.
safely tucked away so that you could focus. Outcome focus is not going to work.
No.
It's not going to work until we have to give space for people to kind of clean their plate so we can put more on it and do the things that we have to do with that plate. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to be so bad at that, and I still can be. I still can be very like, we got to get crap done.
Gotta
Like,
get it done.
yeah, I got 30 minutes. We've got to get it done.
Put
But
your feelings, leave your feelings at the door, right?
I have found that if I give space for feelings for whoever's in the room, man, the efficiency picks up like crazy. Like
Yep.
it really, we can get more done in 5 minutes than I could if I spent 30 minutes trying to push you into whatever it needed to be because you just weren't in the headspace to do it.
Yeah. Not in the headspace, and just needing that one moment of connection
Mhm.
and trust to be like, okay, you get it. Like, even if we don't get into the details, like, you're like, okay, I know that you understand that I have other things going on and I might not be on my A game, right? So we get to that point of commitments, or who's going to be doing what by then, who's going to be doing what by when, right? And you're like, okay, well, mm, yeah, Carrie, are you ready to take on all of that, or is there somewhere else that we could, you know, divvy that out or whatever? Like, just knowing that, I mean, that's the relationships that make organizations work. So,
I
love that.
fully agree. Like, um, I was just a terrible offender at outcomes, because I just thought that's the way we get things done. We've got to get outcomes done. And you take a look at these little circles that tell you so much, is that we can get outcomes, but we have to lean into what people are really good at, not skill sets, but through their personalities, what they're really
So,
good at, and what can we leverage and build on, and what do we need to be aware of so
yes,
much.
yes. Well, we have been talking for a long time, and I know we can talk for more, and going to be talking
We are.
more because
What
we're
do we got coming
inviting
up?
people into this conversation.
I
So,
am pretty excited. So you and I turned on our inspiration, and what
yes,
happened?
we decided that we are ready to share Lumina with the world,
Uh-huh.
and we want to bring our knowledge and expertise to you and your organizations. And so, in order to have people get a little taste of that, we're going to start hosting kind of some community practices. I don't know exactly what we're calling it right now, but just an opportunity to come in
Yeah.
for free,
Yeah.
hear a little bit about us, maybe learn a little bit about yourself, and then really think about, what is it maybe that you can walk away with and start to use in your own organizations or in your own relationships, to better improve your communication. And so, yes,
I know we're calling this work, but I think I'm going to have so much fun. It's going to be crazy. And what is work without a little fun,
it is.
So
I don't work in anything that's not fun.
so here's the deal. you and I and whoever wants to join us, December 5th, 11:30 to 1 p.m. Central Time. Carrie's got a Zoom link so you can register. We're going to get on and we're going to do a little deeper dive into Lumina and all those things. Uh, what I think is cool about it is when you register for this, Lumina has a splash app. It's
Yes.
on your
It's so
phone.
good.
So when you register, we're going to give you the download link. I think that's right. We're going to give you the download link and you can do what they call a taster. So it's like the short version. So you're not going to get the full details. You're not going to get the everyday, the underlying, and the overextended personas, but you're going to get a really good picture and something to start your journey onto self-awareness. I love the app. The app is cool. You can overlay people's personalities on it, and it's just a quick answer. Especially if you're a leader, it's a quick answer to what's going on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited to see how many people do their taster, and I'm excited to see people at community practice, and we can talk about all things self-awareness.
Love it. Love it.
So
So, like Charity said, there are going to be a couple of links in the description here, and you'll see us on social media. We'll do some social media releases of what's coming out. But invite your friends. Come for just a little bit of time to learn about yourself, have some fun. They're fun activities and communication to learn a little bit about others and how you can best move forward. So, with that, any parting words, Charity?
I just want to thank you. This has been so much fun. I've been talking about doing a podcast and all this kind of stuff, but Carrie leaned into one of these. Which
Just
personality?
do it.
Like the reliable. She took up the mantle and said, "We're going to do it." So here we are. Thank you for inviting me. This has been so much fun, and I just love. I'm going to use a word from the '80s, geeking out
Geeking
on
out.
Lumina stuff. So I hope to
Yay.
see everybody on December 5th. See you
All
later.
right. All right.